The latest season of Demon Slayer concluded in the most spectacular way possible, with the missed Hashihira Muichiro Tokiro soloing against Upper Moon 4 demon Gyoku, the love Hashira Mitsuri Kanroji's captivating acrobatics, and Nezuko's first words since she became a demon. Demon Slayer has been full of surprises and thrills all this while. However, the absence of our very own King of the Mountains was much felt, especially with his chaotic cameo in the first episode of the Swordsmith Village arc. And with the Hashira training arc coming up next, we think it's important for our viewers to get acquainted with the origin story of Inosuke Hashibira, one of the most popular characters in the show. Before we start, here's a spoiler warning for Demon Slayer fans who have not yet read the manga. He's a cowardice-hating, dual Nichiren-wielding Wild Boar, quite literally. Inosuke's introduction to Demon Slayer. Inosuke first appears in Season 1, Episode 11 of the Demon Slayer anime, when Tanjiro and Zenitsu protect a few civilians from the clutches of Kyogai, the drum demon. At first glance, the boar-headed stranger wielding two Nichiren swords comes off as a loud, reckless hothead, who is driven by enthusiasm more than rationality. However, in the very next episode, the viewers learn about his self-taught fighting technique, beast breathing, which will be discussed later in the video. With the inception of the Suzumi Mansion arc, the fans begin learning about Inosuke's unhinged beast-like fighting style, which seems like an extension of his own personality, with rough lunges, flexible stunts, and movement that is solely dictated by his instinct, which Daki, one of the Upper Moon Rank 6 demons, first notices while fighting against him in the Entertainment District arc. Inosuke's fighting technique can be summed up into 3 words: bestial, brutal, and barbaric. And speaking of bestial, brutal, and barbaric, those 3 words also pretty much sum up his personality. Inosuke's first impression as a main character in the anime was not really an honorable one, the sort that would evoke admiration and awe within the viewers. Instead, his apparent lack of intelligence and sensibility seemed to be compensated for by his loud and stubborn nature. His unparalleled determination to take down his adversary, come what may, is indeed astonishing. However, Inosuke's repulsive personality can do a lot of harm as well, especially when it comes to bullying his fellow swordsmen in the Demon Slayer Corps. His arrogant and self-absorbed disposition is often deemed as irritating as a pebble in a shoe, particularly on occasions that precede a major fight scene. Yet, the Wild Boar of the Demon Slayer Corps can be perceived as an unconventional tsundere, oscillating from being a harsh, hot-tempered brute to a sincere and protective comrade during battles. While the ground zero of every fight witnesses his superior strength and razor-sharp instincts, the torrent of emotions that Inosuke experiences each moment is quite palpable. As a zealous individual who would struggle till his last breath to protect his close ones, Inosuke is a unique specimen of a sword-wielding fighter in the Corps. Episode 14 of Demon Slayer Season 1 finally introduces its viewers, along with Tanjiro and Zenitsu, to the deranged swordsman with the Boar-Masked. During a brief scuffle between Tanjiro and the Wild Boar, who was quite curious about the contents of the wooden box that Zenitsu was protecting with his life, the latter's mask falls upon being headbutted by our protagonist. As the Boar-Mask slips from his face, both Tanjiro and Zenitsu are shocked to see an unexpectedly beautiful face instead. As far as his physical attributes are concerned, Inosuke is surprisingly ripped and muscular for his age. Besides the mask, he is usually found wearing a baggy pair of dark blue hakama pants, a part of the standard uniform of the Demon Slayer Corps, along with a fluffy belt that has been made out of thick brown animal fur. However, in no way do his facial attributes complement his physique. With bright green eyes, a slender nose, and beautiful black hair that reaches his shoulders and fades away into a navy blue hue at the tips, Inosuke's overall appearance is both androgynous and extremely muscular, to say the least. He's literally only looking for a good time, Demon Slayers. Why Inosuke joined the Demon Slayer Corps. The Wild Boar's admission into the Demon Slayer Corps is a rather funny story. In episode 14 of Demon Slayer Season 1, Inosuke tells about how he joined the Corps by matching strengths with some demon hunters, whose swords he eventually acquired in quite an easy fashion. This is when he first comes to know about the existence of demons in the real world, and the final selection exam, which, upon qualification, directly promotes the candidate as the lowest ranking member of the Corps. Thus, Inosuke took part in the final selection exam at the same time as Tanjiro, Zenitsu, Kenao, and Genya Shinizugawa participated in it. And it's not much of a surprise, but the King of the Mountains was the fastest candidate to make his way up and down Mount Fujikasane before the rest of the participants. Interestingly, Inosuke's intention to join the Demon Slayer Corps was quite different. While Tanjiro's was the path of vengeance, and Zenitsu really did not have much choice, the reason why Inosuke became a demon slayer was quite simple: to test his limits. There is no doubt that Inosuke's strength and agility, while beast-like, are far superior in comparison to that of his comrades. Having been taught to follow his instinct and sharpen his senses by his foster family of boars, Inosuke believes physical prowess to be the deciding factor in conflicts, especially in war. Hence, to further the limits of his abilities as a swordsman, Inosuke decided to fight demons, and hence joined the Corps. He might have been raised Jungle Book style, but don't discount his fighting skills. Inosuke's unique beast-breathing style explained. Most of the characters in Demon Slayer, be it in a major or minor role, have had a rough, traumatic past that they try to come to terms with in some way or another, and Inosuke's is no exception. Fans get their first glimpse of the Wild Boar's childhood in Season 1, Episode 18, during the Mount Nadagumo arc. As he's strangled by the father spider demon, an old forgotten memory suddenly flashes into Inosuke's mind. A woman who is later revealed to be his mother, weeping and apologizing to an infant that is Inosuke as a baby, as she throws him into the river and urges him to survive. This is described at length in Chapter 160, similar features returning memories of the Kimetsu no Yaiba manga, which is also a major turning point in the entire storyline itself. Stay tuned to learn why. After his abandonment, Inosuke was eventually adopted by a family of boars and raised by the boar mother, whose hollowed-out mask he now wears as a reminder of her presence. However, another theory regarding his mask suggests that he prefers to keep his face under wraps, believing that his masculinity would be overshadowed by his androgynous facial attributes. But appearances weren't the only thing that influenced Inosuke's later life after breaking away from his boar family. Inosuke's special, beast-breathing style. Although he is not the only one to have a self-taught breathing style, others being the Sound Hashira Uzui Tengen and the Love Hashira Mitsuri Kanroji, Inosuke's beast breathing is an unconventional set of fighting techniques that relies largely on an incredible amount of strength, pace, and swiftness, all of which are dictated by his impulses. Having been brought up by boars in the mountains, Inosuke refers to his foster family to name the various techniques that come under beast breathing. Here are some of the moves we have seen over the course of the anime. Number 1. First Fang Pierce involves the dual Nichiren sword-wielding user stabbing the enemy in the neck. This was first seen in his fight against the Father Spider Demon during the Mount Nadagumo arc. Number 2. Second Fang Slice is an X-shaped slash dealt with two swords at the same time, with which Inosuke finally uncovers the lower Moon Rank 1 demon's backbone in the Mugen Train arc. Number 3. Third Fang Devour is a series of horizontal slashes dealt simultaneously at the enemy's throat until they are decapitated. Number 4. Fourth Fang Slice and Dice involves multiple double slashes done diagonally with both Nichiren blades. Fifth Fang Crazy Cutting is one of the most powerful beast-breathing techniques, in which the swordsman slices everything in a rotational movement while the user is in mid-air. This was first noticed in the Mugen Train arc when Inosuke struggled against the absurd tentacled entities within the train compartment. Number 6. Sixth Fang Palisade Bite imitates the movement of a saw by using the two swords to deal successive slashes from both directions, which was depicted quite brilliantly in his face-off against Daki in Yoshiwara. Number 7. Seventh Fang Spatial Awareness requires a superior sense of touch in order to detect the presence of enemies within a geographical space via the slightest disturbances in the air. This was best depicted in the Mount Nadagumo arc as he attempts to pinpoint the location of the Spider Demon family members. Number 8. Eighth Fang Explosive Rush is, quite simply, a culmination of tremendous speed and force with which the swordsman charges the enemy while taking all the incoming attacks with no hesitation. In the Entertainment District arc, fans are delivered the best of Inosuke's beast-breathing techniques. In fact, his fight scenes against Daki solely required the use of 4 of his fangs to take down the upper moon rank 6 demon, that too with the help of Zenitsu's first form of thunder-breathing, godlike speed. While the underground battle scene between him and Daki's Obi belt witnessed Inosuke unleashing the sixth fang, but in vain, his second attempt eventually decapitated her, albeit she was still attached to her belt. However, it was during the final battle against Gyotaro and Daki that we ultimately see the Wild Boar with all his bestial prowess. With multiple wounds and poison coursing through his body, Inosuke makes use of both the second and eighth fangs to take down the Obi belt demon till he finally completed his mission. Inosuke's degree degree of poison resistance is so remarkable that it can be viewed as almost similar to Usui's own endurance level, which is seen towards the end of the Entertainment District arc. No wonder our Wild Boar does have the potential to become perhaps the first beast or boar Hashihira in the Demon Slayer Corps. But yes, we are yet to see some of his more brutal beast-breathing techniques, especially with the upcoming Infinity Castle arc. Inosuke's heightened sense of touch. Our trinity of demon slayers is quite a variegated bunch. While Tanjiro has a heightened sense of smell and Zenitsu has the same, but with hearing, Inosuke's tactile skill is nothing short of perfection. Although an extension of his beastly persona, Inosuke's ability to detect hostility with much precision gives him a much-needed edge over his fights against demons throughout the anime and the manga. In fact, it was because of his seventh fang that both Tanjiro and Inosuke could locate the places where the mother and the father of the spider demon family were lurking in Mount Nadagumo. With his unmatched physical strength accompanied by his spectacular sense of touch, Inosuke's face-off against the upper moon rank 2 demon Doma would be thrilling to the bone. From mindless beast to mindful protector, how Inosuke grows as a character in Demon Slayer. Growing up in a boar family entails a lot of things, such as developing a brutish, aggressive nature and perceiving every other living being as a threat to his existence. With barely any knowledge regarding human interaction and behavior, it's quite obvious that Inosuke's actions would be deemed as beastly and barbaric. However, it is indeed remarkable to see how his character develops significantly over the course of Demon Slayer. For instance, his first encounter with the elderly woman Hisa after the Suzumi Mansion arc teaches him about harboring unconditional compassion and affection for fellow human beings. So much so that it leaves an indelible mark on his mind, which keeps coming back in the form of flashbacks in later episodes and chapters. Yet, the major development in his character took place during the Mugen Train arc, as he comes to admire the Flame Hashira Kyojuro Rengoku as the ideal swordsman to be his mentor. Unfortunately, Rengoku's demise had a great impact on Inosuke, the boar-headed hot-tempered boy of the mountains, and how he perceives the world around him. The death of the Flame Hashira, thus, was a significant moment in Inosuke's life that would eventually change him into a more sensible and sensitive individual, swearing to protect his fellow human beings at all costs. Another major attribute of his personality is his tendency to forget people's names. For the sake of comic relief, let's take a look at some of the names by which Inosuke is acquainted with his fellow traveling companions. Unable to remember Tanjiro's name, Inosuke often calls him Kamaboku Gonpachiro, Kentaro, Monjiro, Santaro, Soichiro, and so on. The same has happened to Zenitsu, who is often called Monitsu or Chuitsu. And, in fact, Nezuko, too, is not spared from his madness, as he once called her Pionko during the dream sequence in the Mugen Train arc. However, with each subsequent chapter in the manga, Inosuke is seen to have finally mastered the skill of remembering the names of his associates, particularly that of Tanjiro, Zenitsu, Nezuko, Kanao, as well as the insect Hashira, Shinobu Kocho. But even a blind man would be able to clearly see that out of all of his companions, Inosuke has a special place in his boar heart for two of them. Inosuke's relationship with Tanjiro and Nezuko is the closest thing to true friendship that the former has ever experienced in his life. It can be described as being warm, close, and familial. Inosuke's fraternal bond with Tanjiro stems from the latter's honesty and compassion, which initially appears absurd to the Wild Boar. However, Tanjiro's sensibilities eventually have such a positive impact on Inosuke that the latter never chose to leave his side, even when Tanjiro was in a coma after the events of the Entertainment District arc. His relationship with Nezuko, however, is rather more beautiful, with most female characters that he has come across in Demon Slayer, such as Hisa, Kanao, Aoi, as well as Shinobu. Nezuko's constant radiance and grace provide much comfort to the brutish king of the mountains. In the manga, Inosuke eventually views her as a motherly figure that has undeterred affection and respect for him, which is crazy to think about given what we know of him right now. With such an enigmatic past that's yet to be animated, manga fans are certainly curious to see how well Ufotable can bring forth the true identity of the boy in the Boar-Masked, especially in the events of Chapter 160. Well, for anime-only fans, here's another spoiler warning in case you haven't yet read the manga. His origins are about as horrifying as they come in the world of Demon Slayer. How Inosuke got involved with Muzan's demons. Though Inosuke has already faced 2, or rather 3, Upper Moon demons in the past, them being the rank 3 demon Akaza and the rank 6 demon siblings Gyotaro and Daki, his connection with them goes all the way back to his birth. Remember how we fleetingly mentioned chapter 160 of the manga just a while ago? Let's delve a bit deeper into it. So, this chapter of Kimetsu no Yaiba is quite a crucial plot point, not only because of how the upper moon rank 2 demon Duma faces Inosuke and Kanao in an epic battle, but also the fact that it is immediately preceded by Doma recognizing Inosuke by his facial attributes. Having made his first cameo towards the end of the Entertainment District arc, only to come back to the Infinity Castle for the first Upper Moon meeting after 113 years, Doma has developed quite an intriguing position in the fandom. Raised as a god-sent entity by his manic parents who founded the Eternal Paradise cult, Doma's rainbow-colored eyes seem vehemently at odds with his otherwise disturbing psyche. However, it is at this cult where Inosuke and Doma's fates collide. Kotoa Hashibira, the woman who appeared in the flashback during the Mount Naonagumo arc, had run away from her abusive husband with her infant son, Inosuke, seeking shelter at the Eternal Paradise cult. Killing the pursuers sent to receive Kotoa, Doma then took them into the cult. While Doma develops a certain degree of admiration and affection for the beautiful young woman, it did not take long for Kotoa to learn about the former's secret. That is, his tendency to devour his own disciples. With this, Kotoa had only one option left, to abandon her infant son with the hope that he would survive against all odds. Eventually, Inosuke's mother meets a terrible end as Doma murders her and consumes her body. Given the premise of Inosuke's relationship with Doma, one can only imagine the sheer brutality in tandem with the flux of emotions that will be unleashed once this event is finally adapted into the later season of Demon Slayer. Marvelous Verdict. Infamous for being the perfect balance of crass, chaotic, and crazy, Inosuke's special position in the Demon Slayer fandom is pretty much justified. After all, what sets our King of the Mountains apart from other characters in the anime is, quite ironically, his tenderness. Inosuke's soft and generous nature comes in sharp contrast with his otherwise stubborn and brutal tendencies to express his emotions. Yet, in some of his most memorable instances, such as his encounter with the elderly woman Hisa after their fight against Kyogi, towards the end of the Mujin train arc as he mourns the death of Rengoku, as well as the course of the Entertainment District arc, it is crystal clear that Inosuke's strength is complemented by his undeterred feelings of sincerity and affection towards his friends, particularly the Kamado siblings and Zenitsu. With Ufotable's recent announcement that the Infinity Castle arc is in production, it goes without saying that the ultimate showdown between Doma against Inosuke and Kanao will be one of the most anticipated events in the upcoming releases of Demon Slayer.